right, buckle up, folks, because this story is about to take you on a wild, spine-chilling ride. It's the evening of October 22, 2013. Picture it. Philip Chism's mum, Diana, is pacing back and forth before she finally picks up the phone and calls the Danvers Police Department. Why? Her 14-year-old son, a high school freshman, hasn't come home after school. Now, Diana tells the police that Philip isn't the type to pull a disappearing act. Instead, they'd just moved from Tennessee, and he'd never given her a reason to worry like this before. So, naturally, the police jump into action. They post Philip's picture all over social media, hoping someone out there has seen him. They even hit the town with reverse 911 calls. Yep, that's a thing, to spread the word. The whole town is now on the lookout for this kid. Meanwhile, plot twist, Colleen Ritzer's parents are also starting to freak out. Colleen, a 24-year-old high school math teacher, hasn't come home either. And if you knew Colleen, you'd know she's not the kind of person to ghost anyone. This woman's life is a well-oiled machine of schedules, routines, and being an absolute gem of a human. She adored her students, her job, and her life. But that night, radio silence. Fast forward to 12:28 a.m. Officer Neil Hovi is out patrolling a poorly lit, sketchy stretch of Route 1 near Danvers. He's looking for Philip, and bam. There he is, a kid, alone, on a dark bridge, wearing shorts in the middle of cold, damp October. Because, weather's just a suggestion, apparently. Officer Hovi pulls over and approaches Philip, who's got this dead-eyed stare like he's not even registering the cop in front of him. When asked where he lives, Philip drops a bombshell. "I don't have a home." Okay, red flag number 1. Then Philip claims he's been wandering the streets for days, but here's the kicker. He doesn't look like someone who's been roughing it. The officer frisks him and finds some plastic in his pocket. What does Philip pull out? Oh, just a driver's license, insurance card, and credit card. But they don't belong to him. No, these belong to Colleen Ritzer. Yeah, the same Colleen who's gone missing. Yeah, when asked how he got them, Philip spins a weak story about finding them at a grocery store. Which grocery store, you ask? Philip's got nothing. 0 details. At this point, alarm bells are practically deafening. So, Officer Hovi brings Philip to the station, and here's where things go from "this is weird" to "what the actual hell." Inside Philip's backpack, they find a woman's purse, female underwear, and more items that shouldn't be in a 14-year-old boy's possession. Suddenly, the question isn't just where's Philip been, it's what happened to Colleen Ritzer. And let me tell you, what they uncover next will leave you speechless. Further investigation, LED, Officer Hovi. To uncover a box cutter covered in a reddish-brown substance. Recognizing the substance as blood, the officer became deeply concerned. He cautiously asked Philip whose blood it was, and was shocked when Philip responded that it was the girl's. Officer Hovi left the room momentarily to make a necessary call to the Danvers Police Department. While he was gone, another officer remained in the room with Philip. This officer asked Philip where the girl was. Philip replied that she was buried in the woods. Concerned about the girl's well-being, the officer asked Philly if they could help her. Philip's response chilled the officer. He simply replied no. The officer looked over at Philip and saw that he had brown-red stains on his sweatshirt sleeves and a ski mask bunched around his neck. Skiers while officers were dealing with Philip Chism. Officer Steve Barlaire headed to Danvers High School to look for Colleen Ritzer as Officer Baldezer arrived. He began gathering information and waiting for security camera footage from the school. This footage would provide crucial insights into Colleen's whereabouts after she finished teaching for the day. Officer Baldezer met with his fellow officers to gather information and share updates. He learned the team had stumbled upon several significant clues. They discovered Colleen's bag, recycling bin, shoes and clothing near a running trail near the student parking lot. Additionally, officers dissed Colleen's personal items in a brush near the path. Upon examining the recycling bin, the officers noticed what looked like blood. Another officer, who searched the school's premises, stumbled upon what looked like blood in the second-floor woman's bathroom. This location was in close proximity to Colleen's classroom, which further fueled their suspicions. Officer Balair, who was familiar with Philip Chism's appearance from social media posts about his disappearance, observed a male matching Philip's description on the footage at 2:30 p.m. The video showed Philip following Colleen Ritzer outside her classroom and strolling down the school's hallway. As Officer Balair continued to monitor the CCTV footage, he saw Colleen Ritzer enter the woman's bathroom on the second floor. Philip entered behind her, his intentions unknown. Several minutes later, Philip emerged from the bathroom, dressed differently from when he entered. However, another chilling detail was the mask on his face. As if attempting to disguise himself, Philip walked out of the school and into the student parking lot at 3:16 p.m. He returned to the woman's bathroom on the second floor, carrying a recycling bin. After a few moments, he left the bathroom with the bin and pulling it outside the school and out of the camera's view. Chillingly, Officer Balser never saw Colleen Ritzer leave the woman's bathroom on the second floor. When the Danvers Police Department learned that Philip Chism was safe and with the police, the Massachusetts State Police took custody of the teenager. Philip was brought to the Danvers Police Department for questioning regarding the disappearance of Colleen Ritzer. In the meantime, a crime scene investigation with the Massachusetts State Police arrived at Denver High School and started to search where the bloody recycling bin had been found. Diana Chism arrived at the police station and was questioned by an officer during her interview. She expressed concerns about her son Philip's mental health. She mentioned that Philip was capable of snapping under the recent stress caused by her and her husband's separation. Additionally, Diana disclosed that there was a history of mental health issues within her family at approximately 2 a.m. Philip Chism and his mother Diana were escorted into an interrogation room at the Danvers police station. As they entered, they were greeted by Trooper Berra and Sergeant Philip Tunney. Philip and his mother spent approximately 10 minutes speaking privately before the official interview began. While Trooper Berra and Sergeant Tunney were engaged in conversation with Philip, officers were standing on the other side of the wall, silently feeding information to the officers regarding the CCTV footage. The footage had shown Philip following Colleen Ritzer into a second-floor woman's bathroom, the very one Colleen was never seen leaving, and was later found covered in blood. While Philip Chism was being questioned, the Air Wing with the Massachusetts State Police in Denver's fire department arrived at the scene, utilizing their infrared technology to scan the area for any signs of Colleen cadaver, and tracking dogs accompanied by their skilled handlers combed the area around Danvers High School. Philip finally confessed to the officers that he had used a karate chop to incapacitate Colleen before slicing her neck twice with a box cutter. The details of the confession were chilling. He indicated to the investigators on a map where he dumped Colleen's body in the woods behind the school. Finally, at around 3 a.m., a forensic scientist stumbled upon a disturbing discovery. In a dark and scorched, desolate area, they found a toe with pink nail polish poking through a small pile of leaves. The forensic scientist immediately called paramedics to the scene. The paramedics arrived promptly and began sifting through the dirt. Their search led them to the discovery of Colleen Ritzer's lifeless body, despite the medics' best efforts. It was evident that Colleen had passed away. Her body was carefully transported to the medical examiner's office for an autopsy. Anna MacDonald, a forensic pathologist, made a discovery. Male DNA had been found on Colleen's body. This DNA, when analyzed, shockingly matched the profile of none other than Philip Chism. MacDonald discovered patia, or small hemorrhages around Colleen's eyes and mouth indicating asphyxiation. Additionally, blood found on the box cutter discovered in Philip's possession matched Colleen's DNA, leading MacDonald to theorize that the box cutter was used to violently assault Colleen upon examining the body. MacDonald observed multiple wounds on Colleen's neck. It was evident that her neck was slashed over and over in the same spot since injuries. The autopsy report revealed that she had at least 16 wounds to her neck. Several of these injuries were fatal, and even the ones that weren't would have caused Colleen unimaginable pain. One of the wounds was so deep that it chipped her vertebrae, based on the evidence. MacDonald concluded that Colleen died due to sharp force injuries to her neck and asphyxia by strangulation. The severity of these injuries made it evident that this was not a random act of violence, but a deliberate act meant to cause Maxime harm, as word spread around Danvers that Colleen had been murdered. Everyone was shocked, especially when they learned that the prime suspect was Philip Chism. It seemed unfathomable that such a horrific act was committed by someone so young. Philip Chism was charged with aggravated sexual assaults and murder. He pled not guilty to the charge. Despite Philip's young age, he was charged as an adult in relation to Ken's murder. This decision sparked controversy and raised questions about the treatment of young offenders in the criminal justice system. Some people argued that Philip's age shouldn't have prevented him from being tried as an adult, while others believed that the severity of the crime warranted such charges. Colleen Ritzer's students were devastated by her loss. They remembered her as a compassionate and caring teacher who always went the extra mile to ensure their success. The pain of losing such a beloved mentor was immeasurable, and the Danvers community came together to mourn her passing, to honor Colleen's memory. Candlelight video were held, and the Boston Red Sox had a moment of silence for Colleen before the opening game of the World Series. Her impact was felt far and wide as people of all walks of life came together to express their grief and support her family during this difficult time. What in the world drove Philip Chism to assault and murder his beloved teacher Colleen Ritzer, according to the New York Post? It was rumored that Philip was infatuated with his teacher and snapped when she spurned his advances. A police source spoke to the Daily Mail and revealed that one of the stories circulating was that Philip harbored a big crush on Colleen. The source said that Colleen was friendly and approachable, which might have misled Philip into misreading her kind nature and making an advance on her on a local website, Wicked Local Danvers. A classmate of Philip's wrote after Colleen's murder that Philip was antisocial, tired, and out of it. Some students expressed concern about Philip's behavior, claiming that he frequently appeared withdrawn, drawn, and disengaged. However, no one could have imagined the depths of darkness within Philip as Philip awaited trial. A judge threw out Philip's confession, citing concerns about his Miranda rights in the presence of an attorney during questioning. Philip's defense attorneys contended that Chism was detained by the police for over 3 hours following his arrest at approximately 12:30 a.m. on October 23rd, and then they asserted that Chism was handcuffed for the majority of that time and was not granted the opportunity to make a phone call. Moreover, they claimed that Chism had repeatedly requested food but was denied. The judge penned a 48-page ruling saying that it was readily apparent that Philip's mother wanted an attorney present for her son's questioning, despite Philip's waiver of his rights. The judge concluded that the court could not find beyond reasonable doubt that he had knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily waived his Miranda rights. Crime scene investigators found cell phones belonging to Philip and Colleen obtained through statements. However, the court ruled that they would not be admissible as evidence, despite this setback. Other key evidence, including the contents of Philip's pockets and a bloody box cutter, will be allowed to stand trial in December 2015. Philip Chism went on trial for Colleen's murder. Essex County Assistant District Attorney Kate McDougall presented a strong case, arguing that Philip was focused and unwavering in his horrible plan. She maintained that Philip was not insane, but calculated and deliberate in his actions against Colleen. However, Philip's defense attorney Denise Regan had a different take on the case. Denise Regan argued that Philip was in the throes of psychosis at the time of the murder. Regan maintained that Philip had no other reason for committing the terrible acts he did, and during the trial, the defense called Dr. Anthony Jackson, a forensic psychiatrist, to testify about Philip's behavior after his arrest. Dr. Jackson claimed that Philip's behavior improved after he was prescribed an antipsychotic drug. He testified that Philip's hallucinations and delusions diminished, and he seemed more alert and oriented. This evidence seemed to suggest that Philip's actions were influenced by his mental state at the time of the murder. This is what employment is all about. Phillips winced in frees himself, obsessed by some fiscal obstacle. The prosecution, Dr. Dudley, a psychiatrist who specializes in forensic evaluations, had observed Philly 7 times during his incarceration while he waited trial, according to Dr. Dudley. Philip heard voices and thought there was a ninja at the time of the murder. These voices, allegedly commanding him to carry out different tasks, played a significant role in Philip's decision-making process. Furthermore, Streety alleged that Philip had been on the schizophrenia spectrum since childhood. He testified that while Philip had exhibited symptoms of schizophrenia in the past, his condition had deteriorated significantly leading up to the murder. Schizophrenia is a mental health disorder that affects the way a person thinks, feels, and behaves. It is a chronic condition that affects about 1% of the population. Asian people with schizophrenia may experience hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking, and social withdrawal. They may have difficulty distinguishing between what is real and what is not, making it difficult for them to navigate daily life. Dudley stated that Philip had recently expressed remorse for killing Colleen, saying that if he had not heard the voices, he would have never caused. However, the prosecution challenged the doctor's testimonies, alleging that Philip was fabricating or exaggerating his symptoms. They argued that his mental illness was not sufficient justification for his actions to present their case to the jury. The prosecution utilized powerful evidence, including surveillance tapes that recorded Philip following Colleen into the bathroom moments before her murder. These tapes provided crucial insights into the planning and execution of the crime. Additionally, jurors were shown graphic crime scene photos depicting the gruesome aftermath of the attack, including Colleen's gaping neck wound made by a box cutter, to further provide a deeper understanding of what happened on that fateful day. The judge and jury were allowed to visit Danvers High School, the scene of the crime. This visit gave them the opportunity to witness firsthand the areas where Colleen was attacked. The murder took place. It was a deeply emotional experience for many, as it brought the reality of the situation into stark relief in a desperate attempt to sway the jury. The defense called Philip's maternal grandfather Eduardo Barbie to testify. Eduardo claimed that Philip's grandmother had experienced a mental breakdown in the midnight 1000, 970S, and had been treated with electric shock therapy. Additionally, he informed the jury that several of his other daughters had also been treated for mental illness and spent time in psychiatric facilities. A classmate of Philip's also testified that his demeanor had undergone a significant change shortly before Colleen was killed. This classmate stated that Philip, who was once vibrant and outgoing, had changed and become quiet, and withdrawn. The sudden shift in behavior raised suspicions among their peers, despite the best efforts of Reen. The jurors ultimately found Philip Chism guilty of Colleen Ritzer's murder, and he was sentenced to life in prison with a possibility of parole in 40 years during the sentencing. The judge called Colleen's death brutal and senseless. The details of the murder were horrifying and a testament to the unimaginable horror that Colleen endured. One might think that Philip's life sentence would mean that he would be the last the world would ever hear of him. That was not the case in 2004. At the age of 25, Philip pleaded guilty to attempted murder, assaults and battery with a dangerous weapon, and kidnapping. These charges were connected to an incident that occurred in June 2014, when a Massachusetts Department of Youth Services employee accused him of attacking her in a similar manner to the way he murdered his teacher Colleen Ritzer 1 year earlier. The youth services employee claimed that Philip followed her into a bathroom, pinned her against a wall, and tried to strangle her and attack her with a pencil. This chilling revelation only further solidified the fact that Philip Chism was a dangerous individual with a disregard for human life. After Philip pleaded guilty, he received a sentence of 17 to 20 years, in addition to the life sentence he had already received. In a powerful statement read to the court, the surveyor of Philip's assault shared her harrowing experience. The youth service worker wrote in a letter about the fear she lived with after the attack, unable to leave her bedroom, for fear that Philip was waiting for her. Her words served as a harrowing reminder of the terror inflicted by Philip. Philip Chism is now attempting to appeal his case to the highest court in Massachusetts. His attorney, Michael Schneider, has argued that there was no question Philip was the person who murdered Colleen, but questions have been raised about the validity of his insanity defense. Michael Schneider claims that the evidence leading to Philip's conviction was legally insufficient, and that the judge who presided over the trial was wrong to exclude expert testimony on brain scans that would have supported Philip's claim of mental illness. This one of the key aspects of Philip's appeal is the inclusion of expert testimony on brain scans. According to Michael Schneider, these scans would have shown that Philip had a mental illness at the time of the crime. By excluding this expert testimony, Schneider argues that the jury was unable to fully understand Philip's mental state at the time of the murder. The news that Philip Chism was appealing his sentence sparked outrage among Colleen's loved ones. They expressed their anger and spoke to the media, expressing their determination to ensure that he remained behind bars. Colleen's family firmly believed that it was evident during the trial. The jury didn't hold back when they delivered their verdict. Philip's actions weren't just a spur-of-the-moment tragedy. They were premeditated, calculated, and dripping with pure evil. According to the evidence, this wasn't a case of a bad decision gone horribly wrong. Oh no, this was a cold, deliberate act that left no room for doubt. And here's the kicker. Philip showed zero remorse. Not a shred of guilt, not a hint of, "I messed up." Nada. For Colleen's family and friends, that lack of remorse was like pouring salt on a wound that would never heal. To them, it proved one thing: Philip can't be rehabilitated ever. The mere thought that he might one day be eligible for parole if resentenced, absolutely unthinkable. Let's get real for a second. Colleen didn't get a second chance. Her family didn't get a chance to say goodbye, to protect her, to stop this from happening. So why on earth should her killer get any leniency? To her loved ones, justice was served, with the guilty verdict and the maximum sentence. Anything less feels like a slap in the face, a cruel reminder of the immense loss they've endured. Now, here's where things ripple out even further. Colleen's murder didn't just shatter her family and friends. It sent shockwaves across the entire teaching community. Teachers everywhere suddenly found themselves grappling with a new reality, the realization that they could be targeted by the very students they've dedicated their lives to helping. Before this, teaching was considered one of the safest professions. Sure, there were occasional tough days, but the idea that a student could violently lash out in such an unspeakable way, that wasn't even on the radar for most educators. But after this, teachers began questioning their own safety. Schools across the country went into overdrive, implementing tighter security measures. We're talking more cameras, lockdown drills, stricter access control. You name it. Some schools even hired trained security personnel to patrol campuses. And let's be real, none of this comes cheap. But in the aftermath of Colleen's murder, the message was clear. Something had to change. Teachers also became more cautious, hyper-aware of their surroundings, more attuned to students' warning signs, and quicker to report red flags to administrators. But here's the reality check. That heightened vigilance comes with a cost. The same people who are supposed to nurture and educate are now feeling the weight of constant fear and anxiety. Teachers started getting trained in de-escalation tactics because, apparently, keeping the peace in a classroom now comes with a side of, what if this student snaps? Some were even advised on how to protect themselves during one-on-one interactions. Think about that for a second. Teachers who just want to teach algebra or history now have to consider how to defend themselves. Colleen's murder didn't just break hearts, it broke trust. It forced an entire profession to confront the terrifying reality that the job they love could put their lives at risk. And while new security measures might help, nothing can erase the fear or the pain left behind by this tragedy. So, yeah, Philip's lack of remorse isn't just an insult to Colleen's memory. It's a gut punch to every teacher, every parent, and every student who believes in the safety of our schools. The jury's verdict was a statement. Actions have consequences. And in this case, the consequences were devastating, far-reaching, and impossible to forget.